Hey, what's going on, everyone, and welcome into the DMV Dispute. I'm your host, Jeremy, and you can find me on Twitter at jsquared021. And I'm joined today by my good friends and debaters, Darrin and Jerrod. On Twitter, you can follow Darrin at dbirdhoops and Jerrod at RoddyKG. How's your day going, guys?
It's going good on this end. Just enjoying this beautiful winter weather. Nice, pretty snow. I'm good on this end.
It's
How
good.
about you, Darrin?
Snow day here in Northern Virginia. So shout outs to everybody that had off work today.
Yep. I was definitely in the house all day, just chilling, watching Netflix, watching sports. Are you all ready for this show?
Yes, sir.
Let's do it.
All righty, let's get it
Let's
going.
get started.
All right. As always, we are proud to do this podcast for one of the top sports websites in the Washington, D.C. metropolitan area, dmvsportsnetwork.com, and they can be followed on Twitter and Instagram at DMV_SN. They have some great daily content on the website of all things DMV sports, whether it be professional sports, college and high school sports, and a lot more. So after you listen to this podcast, go ahead and check out DMV Sports Network.com. In addition, please be sure to subscribe to our show, the DMV Dispute, wherever podcasts are available, and that includes Apple Podcasts, Google Play, and SoundCloud. Without further ado, let's get right into it. We have plenty of topics to get into, and let's start off with topic number one. Over this past weekend, it was All-Star Weekend in Charlotte, North Carolina. Bradley Beal, the starting shooting guard for the Washington Wizards. Reports came out that he was recruiting fellow All-Stars to join him in Washington, D.C. With this news out there, which stars are more likely to actually entertain playing in D.C. for the Washington Wizards? Let's start with you, Darrin.
Well, who is going to entertain playing for a team that is currently out of the playoff race, has its best player and number one option injured for presumably all the way through next season, and hasn't shown any real model of consistency over the past several years at all? I'm going to say nobody is really seriously entertaining this, because let's be honest, just the Wizards aren't in a place where they can offer free agents anything. You can't really offer them a winning culture here right now. You've got John Wall's contract, which is about to kick in, which hurts your cap space. So even if you wanted to sign a major free agent, you've got to give up a lot to clear cap space. And you're not trading John Wall. That's not happening. And I don't see it happening. I can guess who he might have gone to. I can guess he might have gone to a guy like, Kevin Durant. Maybe he spoke to Kyrie Irving. Who knows? He may have even spoken to Anthony Davis and said, hey, if you get traded somewhere else, just, think about maybe next summer, not this summer, but next summer, maybe entertaining the idea of playing in DC. There's that Kentucky connection with him and John Wall, but I mean, honestly, I can't see the Wizards being a realistic destination for any of the major free agents that we saw at All-Star Weekend. So I don't see it happening, not with where the Wizards are right now and the cap space they've got. I just don't see it happening.
I think there's one guy that we seem to have forgotten about that makes the most sense out of anybody else at All-Star Weekend. The one, the only, Seat Pleasant's own, Kevin Durant. I think if Bradley Beal was at All-Star Weekend in Charlotte talking to anybody to come play for DC, the only person down there that makes sense, that has the ability to walk away at the end of the year and come and play for DC will be Kevin Durant. John Wall's going to be out until next Easter, and it makes no sense to use him as a selling point. I think Bradley Beal is just, hey, Kevin, let's come on home. I know a couple years ago when you first came into free agency, the whole team and the city went on this huge, really ugly type recruiting spree to kind of get you in. And I understand how that threw you off. Listen, coming to you man to man, player to player. Listen, we can do great things in DC. We can do it. We can do it together with the team we have. And as far as the cap space goes, you got Otto Porter off your books. And all the other big contracts you have, Trevor Reeves is getting $15 million. Both Portis and Parker are able to be off the books come the end of the season. And so that's a lot of money you have cleared up to bring in another max contract guy. And if you find a way to get rid of Mahinmi's contract some type of way, either stretch it out or trade him for, it'll be an expiring contract after this season. You have 1 year left on his deal. And you could trade him for somebody, else for another piece, package him with the draft pick to try to get him off your books. There's options Losers have to bring in a top max contract getting guy. And they have that option without having to give up their first round pick, which will probably be somewhere between the upper half of the draft and the lottery. So they can turn this around really, really quickly if they could get one of those guys Bradley Beal was talking to. And it is not crazy to think that Kevin Durant would want to come here. Who doesn't want to come home? After life on the road, other cities, winning championships and doing everything like that, who wouldn't want to come home? So I think that's who he was talking to.
I can't see Kevin Durant happening because if he goes anywhere to any losing team, it's gonna be a New York. It's gonna be a larger market than DC. I don't see him coming here. I don't see him coming home. His goal seems to be to get as far away from home as possible. So I'll pose this question to you. What do you think about Bradley Beal going after Kawhi Leonard?
I mean, listen, Kawhi Leonard's a hard book to read. I mean, he doesn't say much. He's not your typical NBA star. He has the talent. He's one of the best players in the league, without a doubt. I would love to have Kawhi Leonard here, but I don't see him coming to DC just because I don't think he's ever thought about it. I don't know what drives him. I don't know if it's championships. I don't think it's money. He just signed a sponsorship deal with New Balance, so it's not like he's this big flashy guy anyway. I don't know what he's into. I mean, DC
He's
has
a fun guy.
I mean, we got the Library of Congress not too far from the Capital One Arena. He could catch up with some reading. I don't know what Kawhi Leonard is gonna want to come to DC for. I mean, Kawhi Leonard, the healthy John Wall, Bradley Beal, a young talent we draft. You get a guy.
It's a championship team.
You bring in a nice guy who has some talent, get some nice bench pieces. There are things here, we're not that far off. We just need health and sensible roster moves. I think, you get a guy who can really come in and contribute right away. I think the Wizards are right there with the rest of the teams in the East, but you got to look at the rest of the teams in the East. As the way Boston's currently set up right now, they have Kyrie Irving, who's a perennial all-star, Gordon Hayward, who has all-star talent, that's just coming back from a scary injury a year ago. It might take him a while to get fully back to the level he was before the injury. Jason Tatum, who everybody says has this all-pro capability, all-pro talent. I don't see that, but that's another conversation for the day. And then you got Jaylen Brown, who's a nice wing piece. You got guys like Marcus Smart and Terry Rozier and Al Horford. The Celtics are set up very, very nice. And they were able to keep all of that, and you somehow add a guy like Anthony Davis without giving up everything for Anthony Davis. I think that they'll be a team to watch for. Philadelphia is scary. Embiid, Simmons, Butler, Harris, they're scary. If they're able to keep three of those four or all four, they're going to be hard to keep out the East. And Milwaukee's similar to us. They have potential. They just need another star. Chris Middleton isn't a superstar. He was an all-star this year, which is great. Fantastic, good for him. Even DeMar Carroll went to the All-Star game a few years ago, but that doesn't make him elite either. So, like I said, the Wizards are right there. I think if they find a guy, they'll be able to get right over that hump.
Two quick points. One, do not underestimate Boban Marjanovic in Philadelphia. because now when Joel Embiid goes off the floor, they've got another monster there in the middle. Number one. So that's a thing. Number two, my dream situation that's never going to happen in a million years because it can't and it won't is getting Kemba Walker here in DC, getting his scoring in there. If we could move John Wall or something and have Kemba Walker and Bradley Beal. Could you imagine that backcourt of Kemba Walker and Bradley Beal?
I don't have to imagine it. I could watch a Portland Trailblazers game. It'd be a lot of scoring with very limited defense and playmaking. I'm good on it.
That's true, but I'm okay with that. You put the right pieces around them, and that's something that's never gonna happen, but it'd be great. So that's all I got on that.
Okay. We'll pick up another day. We'll
discuss that another day.
All right.
Moving down a level to college basketball, the Maryland Terrapins had a big road victory last night against the Iowa Hawkeyes on the road. Bruno Fernandez hit the game-winning, Fernando, correct? Thank you for correcting me. Bruno Fernando hit the game-winning bucket with about 8 seconds left to give the 1-point victory to the Maryland Terrapins. Recent bracket projections have them as a 6th seed in next month's NCAA tournament. Where do you think Maryland will end up in the seeding? Start out with you, Jerrod.
I think if they're put in the Eastern region, which I hope they are, because it's being held at the Capital One Arena in D.C. this year, I'll probably somewhere around 6 seeds, somewhere between 4 and 6, depending on how they finish in the Big Ten. They have the talent of a top 16 seed. If you look at some of the teams that were in the top 16, Tennessee, Houston, even teams like UNC and Duke, who are really those top elite teams. I don't really think there's a team that if Maryland plays their best basketball that they get blown out by. And so, like I said, 6 seems good for me. I think it's a team. I think it'd be a nice space for they'll be able to get matched up against a solid team coming in the first round, and they'll be able to move up into the second weekend pretty easily as a 6th seed, and even better as a 4 or 5 if they continue to play well and continue to get their scoring to be more consistent. So yeah, I'm gonna say between 4 and 6 is where I see the Terps falling.
Yeah, I'm going to go 5 or 6. I don't think I can quite go 4, but I'm going to go 5 or 6 with the Terps. I think getting that win against Iowa was really good. They finally got a road win against a ranked team, which here's an interesting stat for you. That was they snapped, I believe it was, what was it, a 27 straight. They've lost 27 straight road losses versus ranked teams. So that was an interesting stat that I heard.
Yeah, the last road victory versus a ranked opponent was the North Carolina Tar Heels back in 2008. Yep. But go ahead,
a long time. Yeah,
go ahead, Darrin.
So so that's a good sign, I think. But it still bothers me. I still don't think they can quite get up to 4, but I think 5 or 6 is about a reasonable range, a reasonable prediction. I'm still not convinced. I know I said this last week, but I'm still not wholly convinced that they can make a much deeper run. I don't think they're necessarily a Final Four team, anything like that. But, I think, I agree with you that they're probably not going to get blown out. I agree with that. But as far as winning, I'm not convinced that they can really win. I think it's going to be another year of just kind of not really going that far.
But it's another one of those years, and it's becoming more and more common that there's no team. You look at a team like Duke with Williamson and Reddish and Barrett. They're good, but they're beatable. And so it's not one of those teams like those Kentucky teams of like Anthony Davis and John Wall and all those. Like those Kentucky teams that seem unbeatable a few years ago. There's not one team, and those teams lost, and there's not one team this year that is really a perennial just powerhouse. Seems like they'll just be undefeated all the way through. Looking at the top 16 seeds that they released a couple weeks ago, I see Duke, Tennessee, Virginia, Gonzaga, Kentucky, Michigan, North Carolina, Michigan State as the top 1 and 2 seeds. Teams like Wisconsin, Louisville, who just lost to Syracuse tonight, Nevada, Iowa State, Marquette, Houston. Teams like that, at Maryland's best, I think Maryland's a better team than some of those teams that are 4 and 3 seeds. And so I think the way the tournament is going to be set up this year, I think they have a chance to make a deep run. And when I say deep, I mean Sweet 16, Elite 8. Final Four might be a little far-fetched. I don't think they're that talented either. Anything happens in March, though. Upsets happen. Teams that weren't necessarily better always sometimes find a way to win. George Mason made that fantastic run a few years ago. UMBC beat Virginia last year. And so, things happen, crazy things happen. I think if they win the games they're supposed to win and get one upset, you'll blink and see the Terps in the Elite 8. And so, it's one of those seasons that it's built right for this Terps team to make a deep run.
That's maybe I don't even see Elite 8. I see Sweet 16 at best, to tell you the truth. I just don't see them going much farther than that. But I guess, we'll see what happens. We'll just see what happens from there. I need to see a little bit more from this team to be convinced that they can go farther than that.
Agreed. I think talent-wise, they're a Sweet 16 team, but like I said, if things work their way, they can sneak into the Elite 8. But I agree with mainly what you were saying.
Right. Cool.
All right, staying with the Maryland Terrapins, but moving to the football side. Over the weekend, former Virginia Tech starting quarterback Josh Jackson transferred. He's going to be a graduate transfer, and he'll be playing for the Terrapins this fall. With the addition, the starting job for 2019 just became very interesting. Who is your bet to win the starting job? Let's start with you, Darrin.
I'm going to say the starting job has to go to Josh Jackson. Yeah, I know he's coming off of a broken leg, so that's obviously a point of concern. But he completed nearly 60% of his passes as a freshman, and he has played very well. And I think that Jackson's the guy to start with. And the big thing is that with Josh Jackson, he can help attract players for future classes as well. So, apparently, Hill isn't going to be ready. Lance, their 4-star quarterback, their 4-star recruit, I think the freshman's going to be redshirted. I think it's going to be Jackson. I think he's the guy they're going to roll with. He's the guy they probably should roll with. And so I'm going to roll with Jackson.
Okay. Like I said, I've watched some Virginia Tech games, 1 or 2 this season. This past season, saw some of Jackson play. I like the way he plays. He's a very good quarterback. I think the starting job's going to go to the incumbent. I think the guy that they already have there, Pagrom, is going to be the guy to take the quarterback job. I think even though it's a new coach coming in a new system, I think that the way that the new coach wants to infuse the offense in a sort of similar way that they did at Alabama, I think Pagrom is more suited to that than Jackson. I think he'll definitely get a shot at it. I think it'll be a dead heat going into spring camp and spring football. I think that will be something to really look for. But I think week 1, I think at this point, as far as Loxley's concerned, it's Pogrom's job to lose. I think Jackson coming over to the Terps, I don't know if they guaranteed him a starting job or anything like that, but I think they're going to try to stay with the chemistry that's already on the team and leave the guy who's been here for a couple of years.
Yeah, you don't think he'd be willing to try to mix it up with Jackson? Because I really like Jackson's passing. Having looked at his playing and his passing and his completion percentage, you're right. It probably is Pigram's job to lose, but I think that Josh Jackson can come in, make a pretty good impression, and possibly win the job. That's where I'm at.
I think I'm like I said, would I be surprised if he ended up winning the job? Not at all. It's just one of those things where I don't know if they are going to automatically just give the job to the transfer just because he came from another program. It's a Power 5 program. Virginia Tech's a good school, but Maryland is no small time D1 AA program. They're not no FCS program. They're a Power 5 Big Ten school themselves. And Virginia Tech being the ACC. I don't think that they have to look at it as Josh Jackson is this elite NFL-bound quarterback who graced College Park with his presence and just resign the job over to him just off the strength of where he came from. I think that it's something that once the pass get on and they start seeing how I think it really is going to be based on who can pick up the offense more, because both players are going to be – the entire team is going to be learning an entirely new offense. And so whoever can pick up the playbook more, and already Pigram has already had a head start on it because he's had the playbook for a couple of weeks now. But, I think it just depends on whether or not Coach Lockley feels that Pigram can't hold the spot that he wants him to have.
Yeah, I'm just convinced that no matter what happens, I don't think they can go wrong with either one. You're right; it'll probably be Pigram. It's probably his job to lose, but I don't think they can go wrong, and I wouldn't be surprised if Josh Jackson won that starting job.
Agreed.
All right. Well, before we continue, it's time to tell you about DMV Ascends, and that is DMV Sports Network's library of podcasts. Right now, we have 9 active shows, including team shows from the Redskins, Capitals, Nationals, Wizards, and Ravens. We have Fantasy Fever, dealing with all things fantasy football, and a pair of mixed bag shows from It's About Time DC and Dom and Thunder. All of these shows are available wherever podcasts can be found, so please check these out. And if you like any of these shows, please leave a review or even subscribe to them on the platform of your choice. Let's move on to the next question or next topic. We have recent reports from Pittsburgh that Antonio Brown will be making his exit out of Pittsburgh. Him and Ben Roethlisberger and the team are no longer on the same page. It's looking like that Antonio Brown may be able to be traded for a 3rd-round draft pick. With that being said, do you think the Washington Redskins or even the Baltimore Ravens should make a play at Antonio Brown? Let's start with you, Jerrod.
Yeah, I don't think that they should. I know that it's really tantalizing. I'm really excited. Antonio Brown for a 3rd rounder. That's a steal. You could go up and grab him. I understand it seems very, very enticing. But with the state of the team right now, Antonio Brown doesn't make them a playoff team next year. That's why teams are really only willing to offer up so much for him, because he's 30, he's owed all this money, and receiver is one of those positions that's very, very important and makes your team better, makes your offense better, but it doesn't necessarily get you over that hump if you have so much more to go. A talent like Antonio Brown takes your team from a playoff team to a Super Bowl contender. Not necessarily a lottery or an early draft pick team to a playoff team, if that makes sense. It doesn't, as great as a receiver can be for a team, it's really rare that a guy can come in and just take you to a whole new level. So as much as I would love to have a guy like Antonio Brown here, I'd rather let the rebuild keep going and get somebody and draft the next Antonio Brown instead of paying millions of dollars for the 30-year-old one.
Yes. So I think that the Redskins should absolutely cast a line, see if there's, test the water with an Antonio Brown trade. But I think they have other areas that they need to address. And I don't think that committing to Antonio Brown in a trade is a long-term solution. Antonio Brown is the kind of guy that you trade for if you're one piece away, if you're that receiver piece away. And the Redskins are not one piece away. They're multiple pieces away. So my priorities are at areas like quarterback and areas like safety. There was a report that came out that with Landon Collins allegedly out of his way, or out of New York, leaving the New York Football Giants, I think that needs to be a priority target for the Redskins. Especially they just cut DJ Swearinger. They're gonna let Clinton Dix test free agency, hit the free agent market. So that's an area that needs to be focused on. And I think if you can form a good safety tandem with Collins and have Monte Nicholson there, I think that'll be great. And then you need to focus on the quarterback situation. I think Antonio Brown needs a decent quarterback, which the Redskins don't really have. They may have Colt McCoy back, or they're going to have some freshman, some prospect that is unproven in the NFL. So even if you have Antonio Brown there in like a mentor role, someone to make the quarterback better, I still think that that's kind of an intimidating personality, especially given his locker room history, the drama with how he's exiting Pittsburgh. I just don't think that the risk will pay off for the Redskins, at least not this year. The only advantage I can see is that you get Antonio Brown here and Redskins fans are like, oh, we got Antonio Brown. We have a star in Washington, D.C. I think that's really the biggest advantage to getting Antonio Brown. But as far as the on-field product, I think that there's other directions they need to go that don't involve Antonio Brown.
I think that I like what you said. I mean, I like Landon Collins. I liked him a lot. I liked him when he came to the draft. I wish the Redskins had made a move to draft him. And I like that he feels a need. He would definitely feel a need. But I don't want to overpay Landon Collins. I don't want to overpay anybody that's going to come in and not be a immediate impact will play position that has a huge impact on winning. And so I think the best move for the Skins to do is try to figure out their cap situation, figure out who they want to keep, figure out who's going to play quarterback, because you have a lot of money tied up at quarterback right now. So I think the best route as far as quarterback goes is to let Colt McCoy finally have his chance that him and Jake Gruden have been begging for years. Let him finally get his chance to see what he can do, and let's see if he either sinks or swims. We all know he's not going to do but so much. Let him see and see how that goes. And as far as safety goes, I really want to find somebody in the draft or find a guy like Collins. If not Collins himself, like I said, I love Collins, but you need to find two safeties because Monte Nicholson is not on this team. Monte Nicholson likes to get in fights. And
he likes to get arrested. Yep.
And so he's gone. Clinton Dix, like I said, they're going to let him touch free agency. I could see him coming back in a way of how, we used to let guys like D Hall or whoever else, let them test free agency, see what they think they're going to get out there in the market. And when they don't get that, call them back in for a meeting and let them sign a smaller deal or another prove-it deal for us. I like how Clinton, he can't tackle, he's scared of contact, but he's passable in coverage. You just drop him back safe. If you drop him back deep enough, he'll be a good safety for you. But as far as Antonio Brown goes, leave it alone. Don't even tempt the fans for something like that, because it's only going to be nice on the surface for the headline, but after that wears off, it just be more money tied up into a player that's not helping us win.
Now, what about the Baltimore Ravens? They are the rivals of the Pittsburgh Steelers. I mean, obviously every team should probably be interested in Antonio Brown. Correct me. But do you think the Baltimore Ravens actually have a shot at getting him? Let's start with you, Darrin.
No, they don't have a shot, because, like you said, they're rivals. I don't see it happening. I don't see them sending him just down 95 South. To the Ravens, at least. I don't see that happening. I think I think it's sort of a situation where they may have other needs they need to focus on. But if that did happen, that would be very, very interesting to see, because you've got Lamar Jackson. They're going for Lamar Jackson. I would be very interested to see what a Lamar Jackson Antonio Brown tandem would look like. But at the same time, I don't see it happening. I don't think that's a possibility.
Yeah, I don't see it happening that much either. On paper, in a Madden type of reality, it looks good, it sounds good. Yeah, Antonio Brown, the Baltimore Revenge on Pittsburgh 2 times a year, fantastic. Him and Jackson, the vet and the rook, it sounds really nice, but I don't see it happening. Le'Veon Bell to Baltimore is more reality, in my opinion, than Antonio Brown getting traded to Baltimore. But I doubt Baltimore pays Le'Veon what he's looking for either. So, yeah, no, it'd be nice, but I don't see it happening.
All right. I mean, we have seen in the past that players have been traded within division. We saw it with Donovan McNabb and the Philadelphia Eagles and the Washington Redskins. So there is some precedence of that happening, but it's going to be very interesting to see where Antonio Brown ends up being traded to. But I think you all come up with some great points when it comes to both the Washington Redskins and the Baltimore Ravens. Let's move on to our next topic. The Washington Capitals are on extended road trip, and they are currently second in the Metropolitan Division. As of now, how do you think the Caps will fare in the postseason? Let's start with you, Darrin.
Ooh, the Caps. I hate to say this. I know that DC fans are going to hate me for saying this, but I am predicting a second round exit for the Capitals. I do not see them making a deep playoff run. I do not see them making it to the finals. This team has been too inconsistent this year. We really don't know what kind of team that they are right now. Are they the team that started 24-10-3, or are they the team that lost 7 straight in the middle of the season? We don't know. They just got blown out by the Kings, then they go and they just got blown out against the Ducks, and then but at the same time, they just got a huge win against the Kings, their first win since 2005 in Los Angeles, which is amazing. But they're also in a tight playoff race with Columbus, Pittsburgh, and Carolina. And this Capitals team is too inconsistent. I don't like the amount of minor penalties they've got going on. I think that they can beat pretty much any team that they would face up against except the Lightning, but at the same time, this is a Capitals team that can also lose to any team that they end up facing, either in the first or second round. And so I don't see them going as far as they did last year. I see them going back to another second round exit. I don't like the inconsistency that I've seen from this team so far this year.
I mean, yeah, the inconsistency has been an issue. it has the entire season. But I think that once playoffs start in the NHL, the experience this team has in the postseason will become huge for this team. I think once playoffs start, things get a little bit more serious. Those little minor penalties start to decrease a little bit, and you'll see more of the same Capitals team you saw a year ago. I think the thing that's really going to help them out is that they're still very talented. They still have one of the best top-to-bottom rosters in the Eastern Conference. Like you said, Tampa Bay is probably the only team that's scary as far as talent-wise and just matching up on the ice. But I don't think that in a playoff series that any of these other teams really match up better than the Capitals do as far as talent-wise. And I think the Capitals going to be a hard exit in the playoffs. Now, one thing I think that's going to really hurt them with the inconsistency is the fact that they're going to have to play more games. If they do win a series, it's going to be a Game 7 win and not a Game 5 or Game 6 win. And that's going to start taking a toll on the players that play the most minutes. And you're going to start to see that in the second round and in the later rounds. But I think they can make a deep run. I could see them making it to the Eastern Conference Finals. I can see it happening very easily because like I said, it's really the Lightning and then everybody else. And so I can see it happening. I really can. It's just a matter of whether or not they get it together in time for the playoffs. And tomorrow they have a very, very important matchup against the Maple Leafs, I believe. And so they really going to have to, come out and get a good win because that's important for standing as well as proving that they're ready for the postseason.
All right. Well, yesterday, third baseman Manny Machado, who has been on the free agent market for months now in Major League Baseball, he signed a huge deal yesterday with the San Diego Padres. It is a 10-year, $300 million contract, which is the largest contract in American sports history. His contract also has a 5-year opt-out. So after 5 years, he could decide, does he want to stay with the Padres or get right back into free agency? This signing by the Padres has now left Bryce Harper as the big fish that's left in the free agent market. If Harper is somehow signed by the Washington Nationals, how do you think he'll be received by the fan base? Will it be with excitement or apathy? How do you think the fan base is going to receive that? And before I let you all answer, there have been multiple teams, and the Nationals have been one of them, that Bryce Harper has turned down a $300 million contract to. So start with you, Jerrod. Do you think the fan base is going to be excited, or do you think there's going to be some sort of resentment toward Bryce Harper for just taking so long to re-sign with them?
I mean, I don't know. If it was me, if I was a guy in the locker room and arguably our best player was really just keeping us on pins and needles the entire off season, all the way up into the start of spring training, whether or not he really wants to be here, I would feel some type of way because I know how dedicated I am to winning for this organization. And I don't know if I could put my trust in a guy who doesn't seem to have the same level of commitment to this team that I do. Because at that point, I start questioning his motives. Is winning what's important to him? Is the jersey, the colors he wears much more important to him? Is money more important? Is whether or not the weather at whatever team he's playing at is what's important to him? Once I start questioning things like that, it makes it hard for me to trust the guy I'm in that dugout with, and I would hate for that to be the case. As far as fans go, I think Nationals fans, like a lot of DC fans, are avid and they're really loyal to their team, and so right now now a lot of Nationals fans feel that they're really ready for a decision to be made either way. But I think they'll be happy with Bryce Harper coming back. I think he's a fan favorite. People here love him. They want him back. It's just a matter of sign him something long term so we don't have to go through this again for a long time. And the next time we do go through this, he'll be so old we won't care.
I think it's astounding that Bryce Harper has still not been signed at all, and that he's holding out for. It's a money thing. I think it's a money thing. I think it's a location thing. I don't think he's gotten the right offer from the right team, but I think the fans will welcome him back, because if he does come back, it's gonna be for nothing short than like 5 years, upwards of $300 million. So we'll have him back. So it's not worth booing and being angry or resentful if he's here and he's committed. It shows some level of commitment. So wherever he plays, he's going to be committed to that team. So if he's back, I say the fans welcome him with open arms. We're happy to have him back. We hope that the Nats can get back on track, I should say, in the upcoming season. And I think fans will welcome him. So he's still a star in this league. So it'll be nice to have our star back.
It would be nice to have our star back. But Darrin, it can't just be money, because if reports coming out that teams offered him record-breaking contracts and he still said no. If somebody said, I'm gonna give you the lottery, but you have to live in DC, or you have to go X amount of years without such and such, then it's more than just money. Because if it was just straight up money, he would have signed with whichever team offered him the most money and the best situation, whichever one of those lined up. So it has to be another factor going on. And I think that you kind of hit on it a little bit. The right team didn't offer him the deal he wanted. And I'm so sorry, Bryce, that the Yankees did not want you to play for their team, and they did not want you up in New York wearing the pinstripes. I am so sorry. But if you want to make money, you have to make a decision. And so I think it's something that he has to figure out. And hopefully he does it soon. And hopefully it's in DC, because we don't have any other stars as big as Bryce Harper. But hopefully that's, resolved sometime soon.
Yeah, it would seem that the Yankees and the Phillies are. I think that was the last report, that the Yankees and the Phillies are in pole position as far as the teams expected to land Bryce Harper. But I think it's just the right team hasn't offered. I think at this point it's probably a combination of location and money. So the right team in the right place, because I don't think it matters about a winning team, a losing team, etc. I think at this point he's just like, I want to play in a place that I like, and I want to make a lot of money doing it. So I think that's where we're at. But if he comes back to DC, I say we welcome him. He's welcome back here as our star anytime.
Yeah.
All right. Well, talking about stars and great athletes in Washington, D.C., Alexander Ovechkin, since he's been in the NHL, when he came in, what was that, 2000? He was drafted in 2004, but his first season was 2005 because of the NHL lockout. Since he's been in the league, he has had 10 seasons of 40 or more goals. When you take into account that stretch from 2005 to now, the person who is in second when it comes to 40 or more goals has only 4 seasons. So we have Alexander Ovechkin, who has 10 seasons of 40 goals or more, and then the next person has 4. So that made me think about our final question of the evening. When it comes to DC athletes, what is your Mount Rushmore? And is Alexander Ovechkin on your Mount Rushmore? Start with you, Jerrod.
I mean, I think it's almost impossible for you not to put Alex Ovechkin on the Mount Rushmore DC sports guys. I think it's tough to leave him out. He's been arguably the best athlete in DC ever, as far as just dominance for a sustained period of time. Since he's been an active player, he's been one of the best professional athletes in the 4 major sports in our country. He's up there in the stratosphere of the Kobe's and the LeBrons and the Peyton Mannings and guys like that. Derek Jeters, as far as impact they had on their sport and the level of dominance they had at their sport. If I had to put Mount Rushmore DC athletes or DC players, I would probably say Ovechkin is up there. I loved watching old clips of Wes Unseld play. I try to model my game after him when I was younger playing basketball. I loved the way he played. I loved the way he controlled the post as a post guy. When it comes to the Skins, if I had to pick a one player for the Redskins, I'm leaning toward either Dale Green or John Riggins. It's hard for me to pick a player for the Skins because there have been so many great players for the Skins, but it seems a lot of the times that those players weren't superstars, or they weren't, just that guy. 3 Super Bowl titles, 3 different quarterbacks. So I guess the fourth person I'll put up there would be Joe Gibbs. I think Joe Gibbs has to be the fourth guy just because even though he wasn't a player, he was responsible for a lot in DC sports for the Redskins. So those are my 4. OV, Wes Unseld, I'll say Darryl Green, and Joe Gibbs.
Yeah, it's hard not to put Ovechkin up there, even especially at the top, because he's done so much. And when he came in, it was almost an immediate turnaround for the Capitals. Like we knew we had our guy right off the bat. So, and of course, leading the Capitals to their first championship ever was a really huge deal. So, yeah, it's hard not to put Ovechkin up there. As far as the rest of my Mount Rushmore, I'd have to go with it's tough between Wes Unseld and Elvin Hayes. I like Elvin Hayes. He's still the Wizards Bullets all-time leading scorer. He was just so amazing to watch, and it was amazing to watch him and Wes Unseld do their work. But I'd have to give the edge out to Elvin Hayes. As far as the Redskins, hot take coming. I like Joe Theismann up there. I know his career was cut short. I know he had the leg injury, but he did have the MVP season and the Super Bowl win in '82, and then another Super Bowl appearance. And I think Joe Theismann was a huge deal for the Redskins. So that I gotta put him up there. Aside from that, I think I'd have to finish it out probably with. I'd have to go with John Riggins too. I mean, it's hard not to put John Riggins on that list. So yeah, I've got John Riggins up there. So we're kind of in agreement with OV and Riggins. It's those middle two that are kind of iffy.
Yeah, and it's crazy that neither one of us put a baseball guy up there. Baseball in DC, the history is so spotty, and we're having really too many great players of late. The Nationals are still very, very new in DC. We've never been here that long, and so. A guy like a Bryce Harper, a guy like a Strasburg, guys like that have potential to be those Hall of Fame guys, national players. But it's, we haven't had enough. We haven't been here long enough. The Nationals haven't been here long enough to really get that guy. And it's crazy. And I remember just the simple fact that it's hard for people, the average person who's not a huge baseball fan, to name baseball players that had huge impacts. It's hard for a lot of people to do that. So yeah, I don't. That's why it's just interesting to me that both me and Darrin didn't have a baseball guy up on our Mount Rushmore.
Yeah, you can't really go baseball in this situation because it's hard, because I think the closest we can go is we'd probably have to go to Baltimore and the Baltimore Orioles, and if you extended it out to Baltimore, then you can add in Cal Ripken Jr. obviously.
Johnny Unitas, you can put him.
Yeah. So, I mean, as far as, here in DC, it's hard to pick a baseball guy, but if you were to extend it out to Baltimore, up the Beltway and whatnot, you could go like a Cal Ripken Jr., you could go up there. But yeah, we both didn't really have baseball guys up there because here in DC, we don't really have any Mount Rushmore baseball players to speak of.
Now, yes, you all brought up a great point, and I did not factor in Baltimore because this is a DMV show. It is called DMV Dispute. Real quick, I'll say this: both cities have great sports history, so we kind of still have to break it up between DC and Baltimore. I'll be real quick. Baltimore, if I had to do a Baltimore Mount Rushmore, and yes, there may be people that may know a little more. I never lived in Baltimore. I live closer to Washington, D.C., literally on the border. But from my sports experience, I would have to say Johnny Unitas, Cal Ripken Jr., Earl the Pearl Monroe, and Ray Lewis. That's who I would have to say for the Baltimore.
Hard to beat that one. It's hard to beat that one.
And honestly, actually, no. Let me not. I'm already correcting myself. I'm going with Johnny Unitas, Cal Ripken Jr., Frank Robinson, Ray Lewis. That's who I'm going with.
Ray Lewis,
Earl the Pearl. He's there. He's good, but Frank Robinson is one of the greatest baseball players ever, just like Cal Ripken Jr. And then if we go down to Washington D.C., my Mount Rushmore will have to be Alexander Ovechkin, Elvin Hayes. This one is going to upset some people because of what's happening right now. I still would put Bryce Harper. And
really?
That's fair.
I will still put Bryce Harper, and then I'm going to go with Joe Theismann. And the reason why I have these people on my Mount Rushmore is because not only were they good for their respective teams, but nationally, they're well known. Every single one of them on mine. Now, if I have to really break it down to a local Mount Rushmore, it might have to be like Sean Taylor for the Redskins. Then I would put Elvin Hayes still, Alexander Ovechkin. But for baseball, I'll probably put Ryan Zimmerman, to be honest, over Bryce Harper. When it comes to the local fan base of Nats fans, obviously there's Nats fans all over the country, and there's baseball fans all over the country. So yeah, Bryce Harper. My official Mount Rushmore is still Joe Gibbs, Elvin Hayes, Alexander Ovechkin, Bryce Harper. But I mean, some locals will obviously put Ryan Zimmerman, and some will put like I said, Sean Taylor. Even others may even put someone like Chris Cooley or even Brian Mitchell, to be honest.
And guys like that. And it's crazy. None of us said Art Monk. Art Monk is one of those one of those Redskins. He led the NFL in receiving yards for a career when he retired.
And
he's a Hall of Fame guy. So it's crazy none of us said Art Monk. And to your point there about, national notoriety, it's crazy that as popular as baseball is, America's pastime, players aren't as the names aren't as recognizable as you might think. I remember like a year or so ago, they had ran this, whatever metric they ran to determine how much notoriety a name had based on the national public. And one of the best players in baseball, Mike Trout, had the same score as Kenneth Faried.
Yeah,
Like,
in the NBA.
Wow.
yeah, and it's one of those things where like baseball is like this like big thing, but it's not. You really get the picture of how much more popular sports like football and basketball are to the average person, you know. And so it's just stuff like that is crazy.
Yeah, the two most I remember that list. The two most recognizable baseball players weren't playing anymore. It was Babe Ruth and Derek Jeter, and then the next active, like the highest active recognizable person was Bryce Harper, and then right behind him was like Mike Trout, or no, it's Mike Trout then Bryce Harper.
Yeah, it was,
they were like right. They were like back to back, but they were on the same level as Kenneth Faried.
Yeah, and that's crazy to me because honestly, I'm having a hard time figuring out what team Kenneth Faried plays on now. I know he started with the Nets.
He plays for Houston.
I thought he played for Houston. If I had to guess, I thought it would be Houston. But, a guy like Kenneth Faried who's just, essentially Trevor Booker with dreads, that he's more, popular or recognizable than two of the best players in one of the most popular sports in the world. It's crazy to me. But, yeah, that's just the nature of where sports is. And one thing we didn't do with this whole Mount Rushmore thing, we didn't stretch it out to college sports. Because you put college sports in there, where does Patrick Ewing fall in that conversation?
Where does Allen
Iverson fall in that conversation? Where you gotta that's a whole different conversation right there.
Where does Juan Dixon and Steve Blake and Lonnie Baxter and Steve Francis, Len Bias?
Where do those guys fall? That's one of those things that we didn't talk about that one either. And so that's a conversation for another day. But yeah, that's something that it's a lot of DC sports, a lot of history here. It's a great sports town. It's just unfortunate that we don't have a lot of championships to show for it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that about do it for us here. Hope you enjoyed the show. And if you did, subscribe to us wherever podcasts are available. And maybe even leave us a review on iTunes, as that will help us grow in the charts and reach more people. You can find us on Twitter. I am Jeremy. I am J2 on Twitter. Darrin is D-Bird Hoops. And Jerrod is Roddy KG. Early in the show, I definitely said Roddy KG Hoops.
It's fine. I ball a little bit. It's no problem. I don't have no issue with that.
So yeah, don't forget to check out dmvsportsnetwork.com. Follow them on Instagram and Twitter at DMV_SN. And if you want to join the team, contact them via Twitter, the website, or shoot them an email at dmvsportsnetwork@outlook.com. Thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you all next week. Peace.
See you guys. Thank you.
Kind to each other.